Hello students, I am Sally Quadros E. Coutinho from Government College, KPM. Today we shall do about plastids, specifically with relationship to chloroplast, which belongs to Unit 2 under cell and its components. What we are going to learn today is about the morphology of the chloroplast, ultrastructure of the chloroplast, the differences in the type of chloroplast found in C4 plants, and the functions of chloroplast. So finally, what we are going to learn is about the morphology and the structure of the chloroplast, the parts of the chloroplast, and the types of chloroplast found in C4 plants, and also we'll be learning about the functions. Now, if we see the chloroplast, we find there is a green pigment, which may be bluish green called chlorophyll A, or the greenish yellow, which is chlorophyll B. Besides, other pigments may be present. Now, the chloroplast is a well-developed cell organelle. It has thylakoids, it has RNA, it has DNA, and 70S ribosomes. When we say 70S, we have to remember that the cytoplasm has ribosomes which are much larger, that is 80S. And where do these chloroplasts occur? We have done that we see them in the green plants and the green algae. So what is a chloroplast? It is a semi-autonomous cell organelle. It has its own DNA, RNA, and the protein synthetic machinery. DNA of the chloroplast, it can code for messenger RNA, ribosomal RNA, and the transfer RNA. And also different types of proteins, ribosomal proteins, structural proteins of the thylakoid membranes. So of the membrane of the thylakoid, it can produce these things. Ribosomes are present, which are much smaller than those of the cytoplasm. Now if we see the morphology of the chloroplast, we know that they are found in the cells. They exhibit passive and active movements and a definite orientation depending upon the plant species. And the size differs. They range, chloroplasts, in diameter, they have a size ranging from 5 to 10 microns, and maybe the thickness may be 2 to 3 microns. If you see minutely, polyploids, plant cells, and cells growing in shade have larger chloroplasts with more chlorophyll than the diploid cells or those that grow in the sunlight. And the shape differs. The number differs from plant to plant. We come to that. The shape of the plastids, we see there are different types. Here we have the disc shape or the oval shape. Then we have the spiral shape, which is found in the Spirogyra. This is actually a moss cell, showing the moss cells and the oval shape or the disc-shaped chloroplast. Here we see Spirogyra with a spiral shape. Then we have Zygnema, which is actually having two chloroplasts which are star shaped, and then of course we see this organism which is unicellular, has cup shape. It is Chlamydomonas organism which has cup shaped chloroplast. Now depending upon the number of plastids, we know it varies from species to species. It also depends upon the physiological state of the cell. Normally, in higher plants, you will find 20 to 40 chloroplasts. In unicellular algae, for example, we have already seen there is a single chloroplast. Or in like how we see in Zygnema, we have seen two star-shaped. And then of course, it differs from plant to plant species. We have here Arabidopsis, which belongs to Brassicaceae, and Triticum, that is wheat. These plants have 100 chloroplasts per cell. Now, if you take the ultrastructure of chloroplast, you see the chloroplast is made of a double membrane. A structure it is, outer membrane, the inner membrane, and here we see the inner membrane, and of course the space between the two membranes, outer membrane and the inner membrane. And then we have the inside fluid-like, which we call the stroma. Inside the stroma, we find small plates-like stacked up together. So these plates are called as thylakoids. So thylakoids together form the granum. So there might be a single granum or there might be many grana. We'll see to that in the next slides. So we have the membrane is made up of lipid bilayer and proteins, and it's very thick. We see here 300 Armstrong thick, and it has, which includes also the space, and each membrane is around 50 Armstrong. Now the outer membrane is semi-porous and permeable to smaller molecules and ions which diffuse easily. The outer membrane is not permeable to large proteins. Whereas the inner membrane space, it is between the two membranes and then followed by the inner membrane, which is the border for stroma, and it regulates the passage of materials in and out the chloroplast, which include the fatty acids, lipids, carotenoids, and we see that they get synthesized, and from in and out they can move through this membrane. Now if we take the stroma, the liquid part of it, it is alkaline, protein rich, and has a lot of enzymes in it. Now the space outside the thylakoid is that space which is having all the fluid. We call it the stroma. It also contains DNA, ribosomes, and the thylakoid system. Starch granules may be seen, and some proteins may be found in the stroma. And we see synthesis of some structural proteins take place in the stroma. Carbon dioxide fixation also takes place in the stroma. Now, it is a heterogeneous fluid light which we see, in which disc-like structures are embedded in it, which we call the grana, and which having that is the colorless matrix, the stroma, has the grana inside it. So the stroma, in the stroma, there are many membranes running parallel, which we call lamella. The stroma is the site for reactions of photosynthesis, which we call as duct reactions. Now, if we take minutely the ultrastructure, we see here the membranes of the chloroplast, and then we come here. This is important for us because of the thylakoids. Thylakoids together, they form the granum. Then we see the DNA, we see the ribosomes which are present, and of course the lumen, the space in the thylakoids. Now, where is the chlorophyll molecule? Chlorophyll molecules are here in the membrane of the thylakoids. That is very important to remember. So each granum forms, the granum is consisting of many thylakoids which are stacked together, and each thylakoid has parallel membranes which are joined together, and the membrane contain a layer of particles what we call as chlorophyll. So they are the sites for light reaction. Now I said that thylakoids may be single, they may be double, or they may be multiple. So if you take red algae, you will see thylakoids which are single in the chloroplast. Here they may be multiple, like for example the green algae or the higher plants have got multiple thylakoids which form the granum. So we also see difference between the chloroplast and the C4 plants. Like for example, you take sugarcane, Saccharum officinarum. It is a C4 plant. Now in that you see chloroplast dimorphism. Here you see in the mesophyll cell and the bundle sheath cells, the chloroplasts differ. Chloroplasts are smaller in the mesophyll cells, grana are present, light reactions take place in the mesophyll cells, ATP and NADP are produced, and starch is absent. Whereas if you take the bundle sheath cells, which is around the vascular bundle, those cells, they have chloroplasts which are bigger, grana is absent. Duct reactions, they take place there in these chloroplasts. And ATP and NADPA are not formed, but they are used, which are formed in the mesophyll cells. And of course, by using the ATP and NADPH, we see that starch is formed, remains there, it is present. Now, if you see the function of chloroplast, it is because of this chloroplast, the chlorophyll molecule photosystem. Here you see the other pigments, and here you see the chlorophyll A pigment, which absorbs light. So here they harvest the light and they pass it over to this chlorophyll molecule. and it is here, this is on the thylakoid membrane. That's very important, and photosynthesis takes place, actually starts taking place here. So if you see the membrane here, the chlorophyll molecules here, and then you see the inside layer, the lumen of the thylakoid, outside is the stroma, and you see how the different processes are taking place. Actually photosynthesis starts here and it takes place here, photolysis of water takes place here, and then you see how ATP, NADPH is being formed here and given out, and they help in the photosynthesis. Now if you see the whole chloroplast, you will see how light reactions take place in the granum, and in the stroma, this is stroma, how dark reactions take place. The ATP and NADPH which is formed in the chloroplast is used in the stroma, which are formed in the granum is used in the stroma, and the photosynthesis takes place and we find sugar is being formed. So these are the light dependent and light independent reactions that take place in the chloroplast. Chloroplasts also participate in photorespiration, and along with the nucleus, they are helping in also pathogen defense mechanism. These are some references for you, and we have the web references. Thank you.